Welcome back, dear friends, to another exciting episode of the Dispensation of Bahá'u'lláh. And without any further ado, we'll have our opening prayer. Thank you so much. O Lord, my God, assist thy loved ones to be firm in thy faith, to walk in thy ways, to be steadfast in thy cause. Give them thy grace to withstand the onslaught of self and passion, to follow the light of divine guidance. Thou art the powerful, the gracious, the self-subsisting, the bestower, the compassionate, the almighty, the all-bountiful. Abdul Baha. I really love this prayer. Give them thy grace to withstand the onslaught of self and passion. The translation, if you look up the definition of onslaught, what does it mean? Violent, bloody attack even. This is what it means. Onslaught of self and passion, right? That's what is attacking us. That is what is attacking our heart and replacing him with self and passion. So we're calling upon him to, per se, protect us from this violent attack of self and passion. Love that prayer, because that should be foremost in our minds, to protect ourselves, the citadels of our hearts, from this violent onslaught of self and passion. And as I mentioned before even the session started, you'll see how the advent of divine justice is supposed to build the citadels of men's hearts and protect us from this onslaught of self and passion. That's really what the advent of divine justice is about, working on our inner life to become the best you that you could be, to become this new race of man that the beloved guardian is talking about. So dear friends, without any further ado, let's get into our session today. So if you have your handy World Order of Baha'u'lláh handy, this edition or whichever edition, it doesn't really matter. They're all, or even the one that dear Deborah is holding, we're on page 100, okay? Page 100. And we're starting on paragraph 9, where it says, in a communication addressed to the American believers. Okay, that's where we're starting. So I'm going to share my screen with you right now. So we're all literally on the same page. Okay, here we go. So the topics that we're going to be covering today. Okay, this is actually from the very beginning of let's scroll back into the contents, okay? The contents of World Order of Baha'u'lláh. The contents of World Order of Baha'u'lláh starts on page 97, and it goes all the way to 143 with the section, the administrative order, okay? And at the very beginning of the Dispensation of Baha'u'lláh, the first section is the section called Baha'u'lláh. Okay, and so we are in the section that is outlined Baha'u'lláh right now. Okay, so you'll see in this section, interestingly, this per se, even though this is the section entitled Baha'u'lláh, right? The beloved guardian in this part really is hitting home also the greatness of the blessed Bab. Okay. Because I honestly believe that you cannot even get a glimpse of the station of His Holiness Baha'u'lláh without addressing the Blessed Bab. Okay, so this is the absolute wisdom of the beloved guardian, the forerunner, the harbinger of the revelation of Baha'u'lláh. He first has to introduce the Blessed Bab, the greatness of this revelation of the Bab, as well as how that is tied into this revelation of Baha'u'lláh as these are twin manifestations, you have to address the Blessed Bab, the greatness of this revelation. So this comes first. Also, the Ḥadíth, where does this prophecies and all the traditions of Islam come in, as well as this incredible 25 out of the 27 letters. This is an incredible saying that all the knowledge has come. 25 out of the 27 letters comes in this day and age through the Qayyam, which is the Blessed Bab. Also, we're going to be talking about the Persian Bayán, the address of Vahid, and testimonies from the Qayyúmu'l-Asmá. And so these are the main subjects that we'll be covering in paragraphs 9 through 12. So there's going to be, this is our part 4. Also in part 5, we'll also be going deeper into the Quran. And because the beloved guardian in these 2 parts really emphasizes that the friends, the Baha'is, especially the American Baha'is, need to study Islam. And the answer is, and in Dispensation of Bahá'u'lláh, it says why, which is interesting. And the answer why is because in the West, especially, the Islam has been distorted. So as Baha'is, we have to vindicate the truths of Islam, because as Baha'is, we accept Islam. Not per se what is currently practiced and all of that, but we accept the essence of the message. And that coming from His Holiness Muhammad, the Quran, divine revelation, we accept that revelation. So we have to vindicate it, prove it. We have to be knowledgeable about Islam and not just say, yeah, I accept His Holiness Baha'u'lláh, I accept the Blessed Bab, but I don't know much about Islam, and I don't know much about Christianity, and I accept them. And so we have to become more knowledgeable. And so the beloved guardian says, study deeply. So we're going to get into that in our forthcoming sections. So without any further ado, dear friends, this is our longest paragraph of this part 9 through 12. And so our first reader is Miss Deborah, if you so kindly could read this paragraph 9 for us.
In a communication addressed to the American believers, I have, in the course of my explanation of the Station of the Bab, made a passing reference to the incomparable greatness of the revelation of which he considered himself to be the humble precursor. He whom Baha'u'lláh has acclaimed in the Kitab-i-Khan as that promised Qayyum, who has manifested no less than 25 out of the 27 letters, which all the prophets were destined to reveal. So great a revealer has himself testified to the preeminence of that superior revelation that was soon to supersede his own. The germ, the Bab asserts in the Persian Bayán, that holds within itself the potentialities of the revelation that is to come is endowed with a potency superior to the combined forces of all those who follow me. Of all the tributes, he again affirms, I have paid to him who is to come after me. The greatest is this, my written confession, that no words of mine can adequately describe him, nor can any reference to him in my book, the Bayán, do justice to his cause. The Bayán, he in that same book categorically declares, and whosoever is therein revolve round the saying of him whom God shall make manifest, even as the Aleph, the gospel, and whosoever was therein revolved round the saying of Muhammad, the apostle of God. 1,000 perusals of the Bayán, he further remarks, cannot equal the perusal of a single verse to be revealed by him whom God shall make manifest. Today, the Bayán is in the stage of seed, at the beginning of the manifestation of him whom God shall make manifest. Its ultimate perfection will become apparent. The Bayán and such as are believers therein yearn more ardently after him than the yearning of any lover after his beloved. The Bayán deriveth all its glory from him whom God shall make manifest. All blessing be upon him who believeth in him, and woe betide him that rejecteth his truth.
Beautifully read, Ms. Deborah. Thank you so much. Okay. And paragraph 10. I'll read this one. Addressing Sayyid Yahya Darabi, surnamed Vahid, the most learned, the most eloquent and influential among his followers, the Bab utters this warning. By the righteousness of him whose power causeth the seed to germinate, and who breatheth the spirit of life into all things, were I to be assured that in the day of his manifestation thou wilt deny him, I would unhesitatingly disown thee and repudiate thy faith. If, on the other hand, I be told that a Christian, who beareth no allegiance to my faith, who believe in him, the same will I regard as the apple of mine eye. And paragraph 11. David, could you read this one for us? Oh, your volume is not there. Sorry, David. We can't hear you, David. Yeah, still can't hear you. I apologize, David. Okay, we'll come back to you, David. We still can't hear you. I apologize. Okay, well, Manny Jejan, could you read this one for us?
Sure. In one of his prayers, he thus communes with Baha'u'lláh. Exalted art thou, O my Lord, the Omnipotent. How puny and contemptible my word and all that pertaineth unto me appear, unless they be related to thy great glory. Grant that through the assistance of thy grace, whatsoever pertaineth unto me may be acceptable in thy sight.
Beautifully read. Thank you. Thank you. What a lovely prayer. Exalted art thou, O my Lord, the Omnipotent. How puny and contemptible my word and all that pertaineth unto me appear, unless they be related to thy great glory. This is from the Blessed Bab. Grant that through the assistance of thy grace, whatsoever pertaineth unto me may be acceptable in thy sight. Wow, such a short lines, but filled with power, showing the Blessed Bab's humility and love to His Holiness Baha'u'lláh. And the last paragraph in we're going to be studying in this paragraphs 9 through 12. Okay, and our next reader. Okay, Miss Luann, are you can read this one for us?
I'm sorry.
No worries, Miss Luann, no worries.
Thank you.
Of course, Miss Luann. Okay, Roya John, could you read this one for us? We're on paragraph 12.
Sure.
Thank you, Roya.
In the Qayyúmu'l-Asmá, the Bab's commentary on the Surah of Joseph, characterized by the author of the Iran as the first, the greatest, and mightiest of the books revealed by the Bab, we read the following references to Baha'u'lláh. Out of utter nothingness, O great and omnipotent Master, Thou hast, through the celestial potency of thy might, brought me forth and raised me up to proclaim this revelation. I've made none other but thee my trust. I have clung to no will but thy will. O thou remnant of God, I have sacrificed myself wholly for thee. I have accepted curses for thy sake, and have yearned for naught but martyrdom in the path of thy love. Sufficient witness unto me is God, the exalted, the protector, the ancient of days. And when the appointed hour had struck, he again addresses Baha'u'lláh in that same commentary. Do thou, by the leave of God, the All-Wise, reveal from the heights of the most lofty and mystic Mount faint an infinitesimal glimmer of thy impenetrable mystery, that they who have recognized the radiance of this Sianic splendor may faint away and die as they catch a lightning glimpse of the fierce and crimson light that envelopes thy revelation.
Thank you, Rohijan.
You're welcome.
Can everybody hear me now?
Yes, wonderful. You're back, David. Good to hear you.
I
Thank
had
you.
to reboot my computer. Sorry about that.
There you go. There you go. So much in these paragraphs 9 through 12. So many different themes. So we're going to scroll back and then we're going to read the major key points and then go through a detailed study. But now we're in the first paragraph, the beloved guardian turns the focus in paragraph 9 of the American believers to focus on the state and explanation of the station of the Bab, okay? And how it is in relation to His Holiness Baha'u'lláh. So he says, the station of the Bab made a passing reference to his incomparable greatness of the revelation of which he considered himself to be its humble precursor. He whom Baha'u'lláh has acclaimed in the Kitab-i-Iran as that promised Qayyum, who has manifested no less than 25 out of the 27 letters which all the prophets were destined to reveal. So all the prophets, and these are the Isaiahs, the Daniels, all the prophets, pre-prophets, going all the way before, all the knowledge before. His Holiness the Blessed Bab revealed, in the sense of scope of knowledge, 25 out of all the 27 letters of the knowledge. Shows how incredible that revelation was. Okay, and so great a revealer has himself testified to the preeminence of that superior revelation, namely the revelation of His Holiness Baha'u'lláh, that was soon to supersede his own. And this is the words of the Blessed Bab. He says, the germ, the Bab asserts in the Persian Bayán, that holds within itself the potentialities of the revelation that is to come, is endowed with a potency superior to the combined forces of all those who follow me. So everything that is to come is superior to all that has been. So talking about the revelation of Baha'u'lláh. And of all the tributes, this is an incredible tribute. This is what the Blessed Bab says. Of all the tributes, he again affirms, I have paid to him who is to come after me. The greatest is this, my written confession that no words of mine can adequately describe him, nor can any reference to him in my book, the Bayán, do justice to his cause. And the Bayán, he in that same book categorically declares, and whosoever is therein revolve round the saying, of him whom God shall make manifest. This is the title of Baha'u'lláh. Even as the Aleph, the gospel, and whosoever was therein revolved round the saying of Muhammad, the apostle of God. 1,000 perusals of the Bayán, he further remarks, cannot equal the perusal of a single verse to be revealed by him whom God shall make manifest. This was such an amazing line too, saying even as the Aleph, the gospel, meaning the Christians, the people of Christ, they revolve around the saying of Muhammad, because Muhammad supersedes that revelation. So the Christians revolve around the sayings of Muhammad. And then he's saying, his dispensation revolves around he whom God shall make manifest. So this is the Blessed Bab speaking in the Bayán. And he says 1,000 perusals of the Bayán, he further remarks, cannot equal the perusal of a single verse to be revealed by him whom God shall make manifest. Shows the power, the intensity, and love, true love, and of the manifestation of God between the Blessed Bab and Baha'u'lláh. That love, showing that relationship. Today, the Bayán is in the stage of the seed, at the beginning of the manifestation of him whom God shall make manifest. Its ultimate perfection will become apparent. The Bayán and such as our believers therein yearn more ardently after him, the yearning of any lover after his beloved. The Bayán deriveth all its glory. All its glory from him whom God shall make manifest. All blessing be upon him who believeth in him, and woe betide him that reject its truth. So you can see this entire paragraph, this paragraph 9, is His Holiness the Blessed Bab pouring out his written and open-hearted confession of the station of His Holiness Baha'u'lláh and the relationship of the Blessed Bab to Baha'u'lláh, in stating that he, the Blessed Bab, is truly saying the preeminence of that superior revelation. I am his humble, almost saying I'm his servant to Baha'u'lláh. I'm his humble precursor. I am the loved one of him whom God shall make manifest. And then he goes further and he says, anyone that denies him whom God shall make manifest, anyone that denies him, I deny him. Meaning it says, I deny anyone that denies him, meaning I will deny anyone that denies him whom God shall make manifest. And anyone that believes in him whom God shall make manifest, I believe in that person too, meaning I accept that person too. So this is really his open-hearted confession and love of the Blessed Bab to Baha'u'lláh. Paragraph 9. Paragraph 10. Now Sayyid Yahya Darabi, surnamed Vahid, and I encourage every one of you and urge every one of you to read the Dawnbreakers, okay? And in the Dawnbreakers, also entitled Nabil's Narrative, that is, I encourage every one of you to read, and then on top of it, reread that. So that is really our history of our faith. And the beloved guardian went to so much pain to make sure of its accuracy of history and make sure editing it, and really went to painstaking to edit that, the Dawnbreakers. And one of the characters in the early history was this Sayyid Yahya Darabi, and he's surnamed Vaḥíd. And this individual had a very high rank in the court of the king. And he was considered one of the most learned. Here you can see the beloved guardian writing, the most learned, the most eloquent and influential among his followers. Okay, so, but he initially was in the court of the king, and he was sent by the king to go and prove and find faults in the claims of the Blessed Bab. And after 3 encounters with the Blessed Bab, he was swept by the power, the majesty, the humility, and the absolute convincing proofs of the Blessed Bab. And no one was considered more scholarly than Vahid. And so when Vahid accepted the Blessed Bab, it was like there is no one to dispute the Blessed Bab, because if Vahid, with his incredible knowledge, accepts the Blessed Bab, who is knowledgeable to be able to dispute the Blessed Bab? So the king, all the ecclesiastics, all the mullahs, all the clergy were shaken by Vahid accepting. So here in this paragraph 10, to show the power of the Blessed Bab, as well as the relation to Baha'u'lláh, the Blessed Bab, the beloved guardian writes about Vahid. And he writes, addressing Sayyid Yahya Darabi, surnamed Vahid, the most learned, the most eloquent and influential among his followers, the Bab utters this warning. Now, this is very powerful. The Bab is talking to his most influential and most eloquent follower. This is what he writes. He says, by the righteousness of him whose power causeth the seed to germinate, and who breatheth the spirit of life into all things. Then he says, were I to be assured that in the day of his manifestation thou wilt deny him, I would unhesitatingly disown thee and repudiate thy faith. If, on the other hand, I be told that a Christian who beareth no allegiance to my faith will believe in him, the same will I regard as the apple of mine eye. Now, the Blessed Bab is addressing his most learned, most scholarly, most eloquent of followers, Vahid, right? And he is saying, if you disown and repudiate the faith of Baha'u'lláh, the Blessed Bab says, I will disown you. You are disowned. He says, if you didn't deny me, deny him, meaning Baha'u'lláh, he says, I will unhesitatingly disown you. But he says, even if the Christian who have no allegiance, no loyalty to me, the Blessed Bab, but if he shows loyalty to Baha'u'lláh, he says, that Christian I will regard as the apple of mine eye. One of the highest honors, showing the love. This is the absolute love that the Blessed Bab has to Baha'u'lláh. What an awesome statement from the Blessed Bab. So these are just, I wanted to hit these paragraphs home. That's why I'm recovering them, because they're short, but so much in them. And then we cover this incredible prayer from the Blessed Bab to Baha'u'lláh. And this is showing how in this short line, you can see the intensity of love. Exalted art thou, O my Lord, the omnipotent. How puny and contemptible my word and all that pertaineth unto me appear, unless they be related to thy great glory. Grant that through the assistance of thy grace, whatsoever pertaineth unto me may be acceptable in thy sight. Showing how puny and contemptible my word and all that pertaineth unto me appear, unless they be related to thy great glory. So this is from the Blessed Bab. And in the last paragraph, it was addressing the Qayyúmu'l-Asmá. And as you all recall, this was the Qayyúmu'l-Asmá. The first chapter was revealed in the encounter with Mullah Hussein and the Qayyúmu'l-Asmá. This is the Bab's commentary on the Surah of Joseph. This is considered and characterized by Baha'u'lláh in the Kitab-i-Iran as the first, the greatest, and the mightiest of the books revealed by the Bab. So, without any further ado, let's now get into a deeper explorations of these paragraphs. Okay, Ms. Deborah, you had a chat here. It says there was special spiritual connection between the Bab and Baha'u'lláh because they never spent any time together, face to face, correct? Well, it's not that just because they didn't have a physical encounter together that they had a special connection. Both of them are manifestations of God in their own right. And they abide on the same throne. They abide on the same tabernacle. They utter the same speech. And they have, in essence, they actually have the same purpose, which is the ever advancement of humanity and bringing together one common fold, one common faith, and bringing humanity to coming to the point of universal peace and harmony. It's just this blessed Bab was the predecessor, the precursor, the harbinger to Baha'u'lláh. And his role, in the sense, his purpose was to bring about this revelation of Baha'u'lláh, to announce. He is per se, the bugler, announcing Baha'u'lláh is coming, Baha'u'lláh is nigh. So this is his role, his purpose. And so that's why, and as when we get to the section of on the Blessed Bab, you can see the words of the beloved guardian, this short and intense ministry, the words that the beloved guardian says, this period so full of zeal and so full of dynamism, this period of intensity that characterized the ministry of the Bab. And so it was really a period of, like, I visualize it that he was, per se, the clarion call, announcing the world, wake up, people, Baha'u'lláh has come. And so it needed that, that per se, that hammer and letting everyone know. That is the intensity of the period of the revelation of the Bab. And then once that announcement had been made, Baha'u'lláh says, I am here. So that to me is, and we're going to get into much more details, obviously, and reading the words of the beloved guardian. But let's get into this study, dear friends. In paragraphs 9 through 12, the beloved guardian, Shoghi Effendi, illustrates the greatness of the revelation of Baha'u'lláh through the testimonies given by the Bab in his writings. He initially highlights the station of the Bab as the promised Qayyum. And then he cites a number of statements from the Ḥadíth, the Persian Bayán, as well as the Qayyúmu'l-Asmá in reference to Baha'u'lláh and the eminence of his revelation. Okay, so there are several terminology here: Qayyum, Ḥadíth, Bayán, Qayyúmu'l-Asmá. We're going to explore all of these. So in case you're not well versed in Islam, so we're going to be exploring some of these terminology and also where they come. Okay? Moving on, dear friends. So these are the key points, paragraphs 9 through 12. His Holiness Baha'u'lláh has testified to the greatness of the revelation of the Bab in the Kitab-i-Iran. And I pause right here. So, dear friends, if you have not studied the Kitab-i-Iran, I encourage you to study it. So, this is something the beloved guardian has said: study, 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 and study again. Okay? So, study Kitab-i-Iran. And I encourage you to have a Bible and the Quran handy. Okay? because that would help your study of the Kitab-i-Iran. And don't be intimidated by it, dear friends. Don't, keep going through it. You might not understand everything, and I can't guarantee that. But this is one of the texts that you should keep going through. Dear Priscilla, you have a hand, please.
Mr. Furtan, the hand of the cause, when I was in the Holy Land, told me that he had read the Kitab-i-Iran 300 times, and he still learned things from it every time he read it.
Wow. Yes, exactly. That's incredible. Thank you very much, Priscilla, for sharing, right? So yeah, you can, as dear hand of the cause of God, has said, read the Kitab-i-Iran 300 times. So yeah, keep reading it, because these are creative word. And as your spiritual capacity grows, your insights grow. And so as you are reading, your learnings, your experiences also grow, and you'll have greater and greater insights. So moving on, dear friends, in the Bayán, the Blessed Bab evaluates his revelation and his book, the Bayán, against the revelation and writings of him whom God shall make manifest, namely Baha'u'lláh. So in that paragraph, how he correlates his revelation to the revelation of Baha'u'lláh. And then there was that paragraph in an address to Vahid, the Bab points out the importance of believing in Baha'u'lláh. And in that short prayer, the Blessed Bab contrasts his revelation with the revelation of Baha'u'lláh. And in the last paragraph, paragraph 12, it says, in the Qayyúmu'l-Asmá, the Bab prophesies the hardships he would endure and his eventual martyrdom in the path of Baha'u'lláh. So these are the key points, paragraphs 9 through 12. Now, the first paragraph that we're going to be addressing is paragraph 9. In paragraph 9, the beloved guardian Shaykh Effendi briefly outlines the greatness of the revelation of the Bab before referring to the testimonies of the Bab on the eminence of the revelation of Baha'u'lláh. He cites a hadith, okay? What is a hadith? Anyone can tell me what a hadith is off the top of your head?
Some reported saying from the Quran, some hadiths are true and some we should ignore.
Okay. It doesn't have to be from the Quran. It says it's from Islamic scriptures. It could be the sayings from the Imams and reported holy ones is the hadith. Hadith is generally from the Imams and or the Prophet. Okay, so this is the hadith, and it's not one book, it's a large amount of volumes is the hadith, okay? So in it, he cites a hadith from Islam about the promised Qayyam. What is Qayyam? Does anyone off the top of your heads tell me what the Qayyam is?
The Bab.
You're right. You're right. It is the Blessed Bab, but what is Qayyam? Anyone can tell me what is that?
It's the 12th Imam.
Ching, 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 ching. Good job. Okay, we're going to get to that. You get extra bonus points for saying that one. Okay, you're right. It is the 12th Imam. Okay, and cited by Baha'u'lláh in the Kitab-i-Iran, the Book of Certitude. And according to this hadith, the Qayyam would reveal the remaining 25 out of the 27 letters of knowledge that all the prophets were destined to reveal. So we can see this reference in the Kitab-i-Iran, page 243. So the beloved guardian is referencing that, and also referencing that hadith that Baha'u'lláh also highlights here. Okay. In all the holy books, there are prophecies regarding the advent of two great manifestations of God. In Islam, the majority of the followers believe that the two expected manifestations are the Imam Mahdi and the Messiah. In the Quran, the advent of the promised one is referred to as the great announcement. And this is a recurring theme in the Quran, with about 5,000 out of the 6,200 verses of the Quran revolving around this issue. Okay, that's 80% of the Quran. Now think about that, dear friends. 80% of the whole Quran is about the great announcement, talking about he who is going to come, okay? Very interestingly, Muslims now think about the seal of the prophets. Now that doesn't make sense, of the seal of the prophets, when 80% of your book is talking about the great announcement of one who is going to come. It just logically doesn't make sense, but we'll talk about that much later. But 80% of the 6,200 verses is about the great announcement, talking about these two manifestations, these two expected manifestations to appear. Okay? Now, getting into this promised Qayyam, in the Shia branch of Islam, due to a series of historical events. Now, Islam is a very interesting history, which I encourage every one of you to study. This is a very, very, very brief synopsis of it, and I encourage you to study it more in depth yourselves, okay? This is what I've written in this portion. It says, due to a series of historical events following the death of Hasan al-Asqari, the 11th Imam, okay? Now, this is the 11th Imam, Hasan al-Asqari. They came to believe that the promised Imam Mahdi was the return of the son of Hasan al-Asqari. He is known as the 12th Imam and is supposed to have gone into occultation in childhood. According to Shia Muslims, the Imams are the hereditary successors of Muhammad, and there were 12 Imams after the passing of Muhammad. Okay, so this is getting a little bit, I had to put this in here because of, we're talking about Qayyam, we're talking about Ḥadíth as well. So I wanted to bring up the 12 Imams, okay? So we're talking about this Hasan al-Asqari, which is right here, the 11th one, okay? He disappeared. He went into what's called occultation. Okay, and I actually have this in the slides, and you will the explanation of what happened and in detail. And then the 12th Imam, which is the Mahdi, the Qayyam, he is the return per se of that 11th Hasan al-Asqari. Okay. Okay, so we're going to get into that in much more detail. Here we go. We're going to get into exploring this and I even have slides in part 5, in the next part, showing the location of where the 11th Imam disappeared. It's very interesting because all of this, the beloved guardian says we should know and study this.
Ihsan, just a comment.
Please.
And that is the son of the 11th Imam disappeared,
exactly.
Not himself.
Exactly, that's what I meant.
Imam Hasan al-Asqari lived a normal life, and he didn't have a son.
Yes, he was a young boy. He was a young boy.
No.
You're absolutely right. That's what I meant.
When the 11th Imam died, those who were his assistants declared that he had a son, and that son at the moment is in hiding. His name is Mahdi, and it's regarded as the 12th Imam or the Qayyum, and that's the one that they are waiting for. Otherwise, the first 11 are known individuals, known life with history, but the 12th one is the one that probably never existed. Thank you.
Excellent point. So this is coming from Mojan Momen's great book, An Introduction to Shia Islam, which I encourage you all to get a copy of and study. So in this is what he writes. He says, there are different accounts regarding the story of the 12th Imam. According to the most popular version, the mother of the 12th Imam was a Byzantine slave girl named Narges Khatun. The 12th Imam was born AD 868 and was named Abu Qasim Muhammad. It appears that none of the Shia notables knew of the birth of Muhammad, and so they went to the 11th Imam's brother, Jafar, assuming that he was now the Imam. Jafar seemed to prepare to take on this mantle and entered the house of the deceased Imam in order to lead the funeral prayers. At this juncture, a young boy came forward and said, "Uncle, stand back, for it is more fitting for me to lead the prayers for my father than for you." So this young boy suddenly took, at this young age, decided to take up the mantle. So this was, and according to Shia Muslim traditions, the boy was not seen after that incident and was said to have gone into occultation in a well. And the well is located in a cave under the mosque next to the gold dome shrine of the Imam Ali and Hassan al-Asqari at Samarra. And so occultation means it's the hiding of a heavenly body from the sight by the intervention of some other of the heavenly bodies. So in essence, gone into hiding. So that is the 11th Imam. And this is that gold-domed shrine of the Imam Ali and Hassan al-Asqari at Samarra. Okay. After the death of the 11th Imam, Shia Islam fragmented into a few groups. One group believed that Jafar was the true successor of his brother. Another group asserted that it was the 11th Imam who had gone into occultation. So immediately there was these divisions came about after the 11th Imam. Others believed that the 12th Imam was not born yet and would be born on the day of judgment. One individual, Osman al-Amri, claimed that Muhammad, the son of the 11th Imam, did exist, but he was in occultation. Osman also claimed that he was the intermediary between the hidden Imam and Shia Islam. This became the belief of the Orthodox 12er Shia Muslims. So the fundamental belief of the Orthodox 12er Shia Muslims was that he had gone into this period called occultation. Okay, so this is a period of hiding per se that he had. And these are all the different imams. Initially, the claim of Osman was acceptable to people, as it was common at that time that imams would go into hiding to protect themselves from their enemies. And there were agents who would communicate between the imam and the people, and they would collect money for the imam. However, after 70 years, the situation had changed, and thereafter, the concept of occultation became a Shia Muslim doctrine. So it wasn't just for the 12er Shia branch. Eventually, this occultation actually became part of Shia Muslim doctrine, not just for that one branch. Osman nominated Abu Jafar, his son, as his successor to be the agent of the hidden Imam. And the third person to be nominated as the agent of the hidden Imam was Abu Qasim Hussein ibn Ruh and Nawahbakhti. That's a long name, by the way, okay? And the fourth and last agent of the hidden Imam was Abu Hussein Ali ibn Muhammad as-Samari. Another very long name. These four successive agents of the hidden Imam are each called by the Shias the Bab, which is gate, plural, Abwab. So these are the titles that these four agents, these are the titles of them. Their titles are the Bab, Safir, meaning ambassador, or Naib, deputy. So these are the gates to the Mahdi, the gates, these. And so interestingly, the Bab is the title here, okay? So these are the periods of these Safirs, the time period of these Safirs. So Osman al-Amri, if you recall, he was the first Safir. He lasted 5 years. Then the next one was Muhammad ibn Usman al-Amri. His period of being a Safir was 40 years. Then next one, Hussein ibn al-Ruh, 21 years. Then the fourth, Ibn Muhammad al-Samari, 3 years. So 4 Safirs. Now, why I'm putting all of this for you is very interesting, because this is all tied together in what we've been studying. Aspects of the knowledge of who the Qayyum is, the prophecies, the Ḥadíth. So this is of the 38 Ḥadíths of the Prophet, this stands out. Al-Mahdi is from my progeny. His name is similar to mine, and his epithet is similar to mine. In his physique and character, he looks like me. He will be in a state of occultation, and there will be confusion, hayra, in which people will wander about. Then he will come forth like a shooting star to fill the earth with justice and equity, as it was filled before with injustice and inequity. Now, what was the name of the Blessed Bab? Sayyid Ali Muhammad. His name is similar to mine. In his physique and character, he looks like me. He was of the people. He's coming from Persia, and this is talking from Muhammad. It's very similar. He will be in a state of occultation. There will be confusion in which people will wander about. And he will come forth like a shooting star. The ministry of the Blessed Bab could not be more similar in description as a ministry like a shooting star. Intense, burning, fiery, and what a period. It was literally like a period of like a shooting star, filled with justice and equity, as it was filled before with injustice and inequity. So this is a prophecy of the 38 Ḥadíths. And then this is from Imam Ali. Imam Ali has said, I thought about a child who will be from my flesh, the 11th from my line of descendants. He is Al-Mahdi, who will fill the earth with justice and equity, righteousness, when the world has reached the height of injustice and evilness. He will live in a state of occultation, as a result of which a group of people will go astray and another remain faithful. It's very interesting reading this right after we studied Advent of Divine Justice. And remember when we read the words divine justice, the words divine justice are pertaining to the revelation of Bahá'u'lláh. The Blessed Bab, actually, in selections from the writings of the Bab, says the words divine justice connotate towards the revelation of Baha'u'llah himself. So anywhere that says divine justice, the advent of divine justice, means the revelation of Baha'u'llah. In a sense, this is all in reference to the coming of him whom God shall make manifest, namely Baha'u'llah. Two more of these Imams. Imam al-Hussein is quoted as saying, the 9th in my lineage will establish truth and righteousness. Allah will infuse spirit into the earth through him, and the religion of Allah will prevail over all others. His occultation will be very long, and because of that, plenty of people will go astray, but the truthful ones will remain firm in their belief. And Imam al-Sadiq is quoted as saying, when al-Mahdi rises, he will summon the people to Islam anew, and guide them to a matter which had become lost to them and from which people had gone astray. He is the only one called al-Mahdi because he guides to the matter from which men had deviated. He is called al-Qayyum because of his rising. So these are the Imams talking about the Qayyum and the Mahdi that are coming. And as mentioned, 80% of the whole Quran is about this, the coming. Interestingly, Muslims focus only on the aspect of the seal of the prophets, the finality. But if they studied their text, they would see that, as I mentioned, 80% of the book is really about the coming again of the manifestations of God. So this is, these are topics that we'll be exploring further coming up. And some more, two more of the Imams. Imam al-Jawad is quoted as saying, Al-Qayyum is from us, and that he would be al-Mahdi. He must be awaited by his followers during his occultation. Must be awaited. Is that happening? And obeyed at his rising, and that he would be my generation in the third generation. So these are all prophecies, every one of them. They're all advising their followers, every one of them. What to do, be faithful, listen. Imam al-Hadi is quoted to have written to a loyalist, the Imam after me is my son al-Hasan al-Asqari, and after him will be his son al-Qayyum, who will establish what? Justice. This is the day of justice. Universal house of justice. This is the day of justice, righteousness, as the world will be full of injustice and evilness. So this is again, Imam al-Hadi says exactly the same thing as this Imam Ali. He says here, when the world has reached the height of injustice and evilness. So they say the same thing, same voice, these Imams. Now, from other texts, this is now from the Sunni. Remember, I was now quoting from the Shia, now from the Sunni. I wanted to be methodical in my study as presentation on this, so I wanted to go now from the Sunni Hadith books. From Sahih Bukhari, and I apologize, I'm terrible at pronunciations on every level, but this is what it states. Narrated Jabir bin Samura. This is what he writes. He says, I heard Muhammad saying, Islam will continue to be strong to 12 Muslim rulers. He then said a sentence which I did not hear. My father said, all of them, those rulers, will be from Quraysh. Now, this is important, dear friends. Quraysh is a province, it's like a city area, okay? And this is a tribe. It's a tribe, and this is a prophecy of where the blessed Babs will be coming from, this tribe. So this is important. It's saying he will be coming from Quraysh. The Qayyum will be coming from Quraysh. Now, you can easily look this up and look up the ancestry of the blessed Bab. And if the blessed Bab does not come from this tribe, then you can know categorically he is not. He is not the Qayyum. But if he fits this criteria, then you could say a check mark off that list. Because according to this prophecy, he should be coming from Quraysh, okay, this province, that family, that tribe. And if you look it up, the blessed Bab comes from Quraysh. he fits that. He's actually considered the most famous member of that tribe, actually. I looked that up on its own Wikipedia. He is the most famous member of that family, of that tribe. In a hadith widely regarded as authentic, Muhammad said, even if the entire duration of the world's existence has already been exhausted and only one day is left before the day of judgment, Allah will expand that day to such a length of time as to accommodate the kingdom of a person out of Ahlul Bayt, who will be called by my name and my Father's name. He will then fill the earth with peace and justice, as it will have been filled with injustice and tyranny before then. So this is another statement. Dr. Vahid, do you want to explain this last one from the Sunni Hadith?
Sure.
Go for it.
Ahl Bayt means my family.
Uh-huh.
And therefore, this says that if of the finality of the world, even one day is left, God will extend that day so that a member of my family will come and he will be that Mahdi. And Quraysh also is the tribe that Muhammad comes from, not the place, is a tribe that Muhammad comes from. So the Bab has the title of Sayyid because he comes from the descendants of the family of Muhammad. And therefore, it's taken that all of these prophecies are fulfilled by his coming. Thank you.
Excellent point. Thank you, Dr. Vahid. Thank you. So moving on. Now let us, now the last agent as Samari brought the following written message from the hidden Imam. So there was 4 ambassadors, Safirs, and the last of these agents was as Samari. He brought this written message from the hidden Imam. This is what it writes. And we find this in Introduction to Shia Islam by Mojan Moment. This is what it states. In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, O Ali ibn Muhammad as-Samari, may God magnify the reward of your brethren upon you. There are but 6 days separating you from death. So therefore, arrange your affairs, but do not appoint anyone to your position after you. For the second occultation has come, and there will not now be a manifestation except by the permission of God, and that after a long time has passed, and hearts have hardened, and the earth become filled with tyranny, and there will come to my Shia those who claim to have seen me. But he who claims to have seen me before the emergence of the Sufayani and the cry from the heavens is assuredly a lying impostor. And there is no power nor strength save in God, the Almighty, the All-High. So, not a very pleasant message per se. You're going to die in 6 days, right? Not something everyone wants to hear. But this is the message As-Samari got, saying you're going to die in 6 days, but he says, do not appoint a successor after you, okay? Do not appoint anyone after you to a position after you, for the second occultation has come. Okay, now the second occultation has come now, and this manifestation will appear after what? The world, the earth has been filled with tyranny, and the hearts have hardened. So it's going to take a long time after As-Samari has passed away, and then the world is filled with tyranny, the hearts have hardened, and then the emergence of the Sufayani and the cry from the heavens is assuredly in a, if anyone says, you know, I am him, he assuredly is a lying impostor. So this is the message, the last message, written message from this hidden Imam. Okay, and I have this in, I believe this is Arabic to the right, Dave?
Right. John, therefore, there were two occultations.
That's correct.
The first occultation was during those agents. There were 4 of them, one after the other. And it took almost 69 years, something like that. And the last one before dying is the one that you just shared with us. He said, after me, there will be nobody else, because now that Mahdi will go into a long occultation. And it will not happen until those evidences take place that mentioned there. So the Shia world is still waiting for the end of the second occultation of that hidden Imam. Thank you, Aziz.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Vahid. So this here is more on this major occultation. This is what it writes. May Allah give good reward to your brethren concerning you. For indeed you shall die after the 6th day. So prepare your affairs and do not appoint anyone to take your place after your death. For the major occultation has now started, and there can be no appearance until after a long time, when Allah gives his permission, hearts become hardened and the world becomes filled with injustice. So you can see this is the reference. This is the reference to this from As-Samari, his last written message. So I actually found the reference to it, so that's why I pulled it here, so you could see it in English as well as in Arabic. Now carrying on, this is all very interesting. He says, now, hence the hidden Imam went from this lesser occultation into the greater occultation in AD 941. Mojan Moment suggests it was probably also at about the end of the lesser occultation that the 12th Imam came to be identified with the figure of the Mahdi. So that's roughly the period. Now he was considered this great awaited leader, the one that had been awaited for. Now, these are different other titles for this hidden Imam. I wanted to share this so you're aware of this. This hidden Imam has been given many different titles, including Sahuba Zaman. You probably have heard that title, and if you've studied the Dawnbreakers, Nabiul's narrative, Ya Sahuba Zaman, the Lord of the age. And Sahiba al-Amr, the Lord of command, al-Mahdi, the rightly guided one, al-Qayyum, he who will arise, al-Imam, al-Muntazar, the awaited Imam, Qayyúmu'l-Asmá, the remnant of God. That is a cool Qayyúmu'l-Asmá. I like how it comes off the tongue. Try it yourselves. It sounds very interesting. Al-Ghaib, the hidden. Al-Hujjah, al-Muhammad, the proof of the house of Muhammad. It's also that the term Hujjat is the proof. Imam al-Asr, Imam of our time, and the La'avar, the comforter of hearts. So these are just some, friends, just some of the appellations, the titles of love, respect for the Lord of the age, Al-Mahdi. So this is the one that is prophesied to come. So I wanted to share that to show the love of the followers of Muhammad, you know, waiting for him to come. So this is the promised Qayyum. And as we know him, this Qayyum is, as one of the friends in our dear class said, his name is the Blessed Bab. And so in 1844, when the Bab declared his mission as the gate to one who would come after him, people initially thought he was another agent or gate to the promised Qayyum. Remember we studied about these saphirs? And these So they thought he was just another one of these saphirs. So that's what they thought he was. He was just another agent or these gates promised by the Qayyum. Apparently, as a token of his mercy towards the people, the Bab did not make an attempt at that stage to clarify his station. However, the beloved guardian mentions in a letter written on his behalf that the Bab's actual claim was the station of the Qayyum and the Bab, namely the gate or forerunner of him whom God will make manifest. So if you recall, one of the titles, Bab, gate, was also one of those naive, Saphir, Bab, was all of those titles that we talked about earlier. And those were the titles that were in reference to those individuals that per se were agents or gates to the promised Qayyum. So they were not the Qayyum, they were just agents per se preparing the way for the Qayyum. But here the Blessed Bab says, yes, I also have the title the Bab, but I am also the Qayyum. But in this sense, the Bab is, I am preparing the way for him whom God shall make manifest. So this is very interesting here. Now, this is an incredible text. Dala'il-Sab'a. Can you pronounce this for me, Dr. Vahid?
Dala'il-Sab'a.
Okay, thank you. Much better than I could say it. Okay, and I will not try to say it again.
Dala'il-Sab'a.
The 7 proofs. There you go. Could you read this extract for us, this slide for us, Deja? Go for it.
Sure. In the Dala'il-Sab'a, the 7 proofs, the Bab explains the nature of the misunderstanding and the wisdom of not correcting it. He asked the followers of Islam to consider the manifold favors vouchsafed by the Promised One and the effusion of his bounty which have pervaded the concourse of the followers of Islam to enable them to attain unto salvation. While highlighting his high station, he states, indeed, observe how he who representeth the origin of creation, he who is the exponent of the verse, I, in the very truth, am God, identified himself as the gate, Bab, for the advent of the promised Qayyum, a descendant of Muhammad, and in his first book, enjoined the observance of the law of the Quran, so that the people might not be seized with perturbation by reason of a new book and a new revelation, and might regard his faith as similar to their own. Perchance they would not turn away from the truth and ignore the thing for which they had been called into being. In summary, he says, it was out of favor to you that I did not correct you when you regarded me as the Bab, as one of those agents. And it was so that you don't think you're not worried about suddenly everything have changed.
Exactly.
Yeah. And of course, later on, he says, I am Bahá'u'lláh, Bahá'u'lláh, which means I'm the gate to God, not the gate to, oh yeah, thank you.
Excellent, excellent. And thank you for summarizing that. That's exactly right. So it says here that, so that the people might not be seized with perturbation, fear. So if having this reason of a new book, new revelation, and might regard his faith as similar to their own, perchance they would not turn away from the truth and ignored the thing for which they have been called into being. So he immediately didn't, say, I am not the Bab. Then when they heard him saying, I am the Bab, they thought he was a Bab or one of these agents or Safirs to the Qayyum. So they just thought, okay, he's just one of those. But he did not immediately state, I am Bahá'u'lláh, as Dr. Vaḥíd said, and in a sense, I am the Qayyum. So he didn't want to suddenly, per se, scare everyone off. Perturbation means to cause them to have fear. So really, that's really was not what he wanted to do. In God Passes By, another one of these great books that I encourage you to read. In fact, technically, it's the only book the beloved guardian wrote. All his other ones are letters. So technically, the only book that the beloved guardian wrote, God Passes By, the beloved guardian Shoghi Effendi indicates that during the captivating of the Bab, the period of imprisonment of the Bab in Azerbaijan, the full implications of the station of the Bab were disclosed to his disciples and formally announced by him in the capital of Azerbaijan in the presence of the heir to the throne. So it was during this period, during the period of the Blessed Bab being in captivity in Azerbaijan, the full implications of the station of the Bab were disclosed to his disciples and were formally announced by him in the capital of Azerbaijan. So here, this is in the period in Baku, and you can see this is the prison of Baku. Yes, Dr. Vaḥíd, did you want to say something?
Sure. The time that he declared himself in presence of the heir to the throne and the religious leaders, that was in Tabriz, which is the capital of Azerbaijan.
Exactly.
And that's where he said, I am the one that for 1,000 years you have asked for his coming.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yes, exactly. I am the promised one. Exactly. And so here you can see, this is a view of the fortress of Baku in Azerbaijan, in this mountain where even the light would not penetrate there, and the beloved guardian and the Blessed Bab didn't even have any light to. He was in absolute darkness in this heart of this mountain. Now, the Blessed Bab was not only the promised one of Shia Islam. He at once fulfilled the promise of all ages and ushered in the consummation of all revelations. He, the Qayyum, this is coming from the God Passes By. This is the beloved guardian. He says, he, the Qayyum, he who ariseth, promised to the Shias, the Mahdi, one who is guided, awaited by the Sunnis, the return of John the Baptist, expected by the Christians. The Ushadar Ma, referred to in the Zoroastrian scriptures, the return of Elijah, anticipated by the Jews, whose revelation was to show forth the signs and tokens of all the prophets, who was to manifest the perfection of Moses, the radiance of Jesus, and the patience of Job. So the Blessed Bab was also prophesied and foretold by all the scriptures, not just the Shia Islam. He was also prophesied by the Sunnis, as well as in Christian scriptures, the return of John the Baptist, expected by the Christians, prophesied in Zoroastrian scriptures, the return of Elijah, anticipated by the Jewish scriptures. So he's been prophesied in all of the scriptures. So his station is so elevated in that sense, and as a manifestation of God, one who have been foretold and awaited for, the Qayyum. Now, because this was brought up in the sections, and I'm just checking my time where we are. Okay, we're at 8:21, so we're getting close to our close for tonight. Because this was brought up, Ḥadíth, I just wanted to touch on it so the class knowledge also moves along. The Ḥadíth, or holy traditions in Islam, are the words of Muhammad or stories of his deeds that have been passed orally from one generation to the next before they were finally written down. And in Shia Islam, the hadiths also include the sayings of the imams. The words or stories have either been narrated by a companion of Muhammad or by someone who has met Muhammad. And these are known in Islam as sahih, or singular of sahabe. Is that correct pronunciation, Dr. Vahid?
Sahabe means close followers. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that's pretty. This is my first time truly trying to pronounce them.
Sahabe is correct. Yes.
Thank you. The latter are called ta'abi'un, or followers. Okay.
Tabi'un.
Tabi'un. So this is a picture, I believe this is from the British Museum. It's the oldest dated manuscript of al-Bukhari's collection of hadiths. And so this is, I believe, from the British Museum. Now, just to bring your knowledge up on hadiths, there's different hadiths. According to Islamic theology, there are two types of hadiths. There's divine Qudsi and Nabawi. A divine Qudsi hadith is the word of God revealed by Muhammad, similar to revelation of the Quran. Okay, so that is divine hadith. Okay, and that's hadith Qudsi. Whereas a Nabawi, which is the prophetic hadith, is the understanding and sayings of Muhammad. So two categories. Okay, to break it down, Hadith Qudsi is the meaning originates from Allah while the Prophet saw or uses his own words. And the chain of transmission ends with Allah. The subject matter of these hadith is restricted or confined to specific matters. And when quoting Hadith Qudsi, one opens by saying, the Prophet and that Allah said. So these are they are few in number of Hadith Qudsi, relatively. So there's not many Hadith Qudsi compared to, there are a lot of Hadiths, but actually Hadith Qudsi are relatively few in number. Most of the sacred Hadith are directly in first person. So it's a first person. Now, Hadith Nabawi, which is the prophetic, is the understanding sayings of Muhammad, originate, both the meaning and wording originate from the Prophet, and the chain of transmission ends with the Prophet. And the subject matter is more general here. As here in the Qudsi, it's very specific. Okay? And there are also many in number for this prophetic one. And generally, they're in third person in this one. Okay, just different. They're different in hadith. Okay, the distinction highlights the perception of the Muslim clergy of the different stations of Muhammad as both a messenger of God and as an ordinary human being. As a messenger, his words are God's words, and he simply acts as a medium for their revelation. As a human being, he applies the power of the intellect and the human spirit to analyze and describe concepts. However, there are other Muslim clergy who argue that there is a difference between the revelation of the Quran and the divine hadith. A full study of hadith is a vast subject, and it's far more than the course of this class, okay? So like I said, we just wanted to touch on it. Okay? As it covers a wide range of topics, including the analysis of their nature, their authenticity, their significance, and their different types, okay? Why did I bring up hadith? Is because of this. The 25 out of the 27 letters that the beloved guardian It comes also, as I showed, it's mentioned by Baha'u'lláh in Kitab-i-Iran. So I brought all of that, bring up about Hadith because the beloved guardian mentioned that one extract in that one paragraph. So that's why I did that for you. The Hadith cited by the beloved guardian Shaykh Effendi in paragraph 9 has been recorded in 3 reliable Islamic books. I did my homework, right? 3 reliable Islamic books, including, and I'm not going to attempt to pronounce these. I'll let Dr. Vahid pronounce these. Go for it.
Bahá'u'lláh, Al-Jami'ul Durar, Akhbarul-Imamah, Al-Asar. Long name.
You did better than I ever could. The Avalim and the Yanbu. I got those ones down, okay? The first book, the one that Dr. Vahid mentioned, that long name, Baharul al-Anvar al-Jamil al-Dura.
It's just generally talked about as Baharul Anvar. They don't say the rest of it. It's too long a name.
I'll read the English definition. It says, Oceans of Light, the collection for pearls of traditions of the pure Imams. Even in English, it's very wordy. So that's the title of the book. And it is the encyclopedia of the Shia theology written by Alamiya Majlisi. And it's 26 volumes. That is a lot of writing for this, 26 volumes. So that's, and then there's the Yanbu. It's a book by Sadiq, the son of Muhammad Baqir, a 3rd century Islamic era Shia Muslim scholar. So these are the 3 places that I came across that this preface, this hadith is recorded, that 25 out of the 27 letters is in, okay? And this picture right here, dear friends, is a picture of the Bahr al-Anbar, the Sea of Lights. And this is a comprehensive collection of the traditions, the hadith compiled by that Shia scholar, Muhammad Baqir Majlisi, okay? According to this hadith, knowledge is 27 letters. All that the prophets have revealed are 2 letters thereof. So every one of the other prophets gone before, their knowledge, everything they have put together, 2 letters. Then suddenly this individual in 1844 announces himself, the blessed Bab, 25 letters suddenly appear. Wow, incredible amount on scope, on scale of knowledge appears. All that the prophets have revealed prior, 2 letters. No man thus far hath known more than these 2 letters, but when the Qayyum, the blessed Bab, shall arise, he will cause the remaining 25 letters to be made manifest. Incredible. Truly, I mean, the more, dear friends, that you study dispensation of the Bab, this dispensation of Baha'u'lláh, this text, the more that you study dispensation of Baha'u'lláh, detailed, you will get blown away by this individual called the Bab. Truly, what a personage he was. What an incredible soul, in the sense, what a dispensation. The term prophet refers to all the manifestations of God who have appeared during the prophetic cycle, from Adam all the way up to the Bab. If all knowledge is assumed to be equivalent to 27 letters, the prophets before the Qayyum revealed knowledge equivalent to only 2 letters. Then the promised Qayyum would reveal the remaining knowledge and mysteries of the universe equivalent to 25 letters. Dear friends, this demonstrates the intensity of the revelation of the Qayyum, the Bab, and consequently its significance as well as its impact on the world of creation. Checking our time, we're exactly at 8:30, so we're ending our session for tonight, and next week we will pick up on the Bayán, and so we're closing it down. Any questions, at this point of time? Yes, Miss Priscilla, please.
I was just going to make the comment that this last statement that you were discussing, the 25 of the 27 letters
Mhm.
over the whole range of the 6,000 to 8,000 years,
Right.
12 and a half times the Bab had to educate his followers to bring them up to his level. So that, and then he says, everything he's given us is as nothing compared to him whom God shall make manifest. So,
Isn't that amazing?
yes.
Oh, it is mind-blowing, mind-blowing when you think about it. I mean, the revelation of the blessed Bab, so incredible. 25 out of the letters of all the knowledge during the whole Adamic cycle. I mean, and then the blessed Bab in that paragraph says, my written confession is this, that my revelation is nothing compared to him whom God shall make manifest. So it's like, what? One letter of my revelation is dust compared to his revelation. So then you're like, what could be more awe-inspiring than the blessed Bab's revelation? Then it puts it all into perspective. That's what Dispensation of Bahá'u'lláh does. It puts the whole thing into perspective. And then you also get to see the awesomeness of the blessed Bab as if when you really study it. And that's, for me, is so exciting. And I love to share that with you guys. And so anyway, any other questions, dear friends?
Yes, this is Riaz.
Please, Riaz Jan, go for it.
I mean, for us to understand this issue of the knowledge released by the Bab, is that he inaugurated the new universal cycle that extends, according to the Guardian, extends to 500,000 years. So I feel what the Bab did, he released the portals of knowledge to the extent of the future 500,000 years of this new cycle. It's this universal cycle. And of course, man is already stepping into space. So the limits have been open. I mean, the limits have been opened. The limits have been dropped. There are no limits now. As the Bab, with the Bab's appearance, all limits have dropped, have been crushed, have gone away. There are no limits now. So the release of this knowledge really, would make sense that the influence of the Bab inaugurates this new universal cycle far, far, far into the future, and the signs of it are already, evident. So,
excellent point, dear Riaz-Jan. Thank you so much. Absolutely true. Okay. One last question, or anyone else, and then we'll have our closing prayer. Anyone else? Oh, yes, Miss Pam, so good to see you.
I'm sorry, I don't have anything profound to say. I just want to ask you to add my email so that I can get the recording of this session and all others.
Of course.
I'll put it in the chat.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And
if any of the dear friends do not receive it, I'm not hesitating. I'll let you, everyone, even on YouTube and everywhere. My email address is ebayat@yahoo.com. If you want to receive, be part of the class, ebayat@yahoo.com. So there you are, dear friends. That's my email address. So if you want to be part of the class, just email me and I will send you the sessions.
John, David has left a message on the chat that says, should we teach Christians that Baha'u'lláh was in fact greater than the Bab?
Oh, great question.
I commented that it is the intensity of revelations we are talking about, because Bab, Baha'u'lláh, Muhammad, Christ, all of them are manifesting the greatness of the Lord. So that is the same in them, but the intensity of the revelation of Baha'u'lláh is far greater than the Bab, and that's what the Bab himself explains. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely true, true, Dr. Bayat. And this is also mentioned in Kitab-i-Iqan. We all abide on the same throne. We all utter the same speech. So this aspect, and as Dr. Bayat said, they only differ in the intensity of their light. So as in the Zoroastrian prophecy that we read earlier, I think it was in the paragraph 2 or 3 coming in Dispensation, where the Zoroastrian prophecy says that at different points the sun is. If you recall, we studied that earlier. And so this is about the intensity of the revelation. And so at this point in period, the intensity of the revelation of the Blessed Bab was just the sliver of the light was hitting humanity. Now the point of where Baha'u'lláh is the full intensity of the light. It is the same sun. You cannot compare and say, one is greater than another. How can one day be greater than another day? It's the same sun. Yes, Miss Priscilla, you have a hand, please.
Because mankind always wants to make one greater than another.
There you go.
In the West, in the United States, we want to say that Christ was more important because God was his father. He had no father. And the Buddhists reprise to that would make Buddha greater because he had neither mother nor father.
Exactly.
So the thing is, it's a human thing to want to say one is greater. We've been taught very carefully that they're all equal, but what is greater or lesser is their revelation, not the individual, but revelation.
Spot on. Brilliant comment, dear Priscilla. It's that aspect of ownership of faith, mine. And so when we say it's mine, and we put up walls, and so when we put up these walls, we say, as dear Priscilla says, this is I. Even Baha'is do it. You say, I'm a Baha'i, and then there's other people. But this is the faith of God. How can we put up walls? There is no division of faith in that sense. And so we're all on this journey together. And that sense, and the reality is, it's one common faith, and every one of these lights have been speaking with the same tongue, the same voice. Please, Dr. Matt, you wanted to say something. Go ahead.
And the intensity of revelation has to do with the capacity of mankind.
Exactly.
So that's why as mankind grows, future revelations will have intensities far greater than we have received. Thank you.
There we go. That will be our closing point. So let us have a closing prayer, and thank you, every one of you. Next week, we'll finish up these paragraphs, and then I will let me record our dear Miss Pam's email so I don't lose it when I close the session. Okay, I just saved it. And so then if anyone is not receiving anything, as I mentioned in the session, don't hesitate to email me at my email address, or if you have a question, don't hesitate to email me, okay? And let's have a closing prayer, and then I wish all of you a wonderful night. I'll also send you the homework for next week, okay? Thank you so much, everyone. And let us have a closing prayer. Any one of you, dear friends. Thank you so much. Yes, Miss Darla. So happy to see your hand. Thank you so much.
Glory be to thee, O God. Thou art the God who hath existed before all things, who will exist after all things, and will last beyond all things. Thou art the God who knoweth all things, and is supreme over all things. Thou art the God who dealeth mercifully with all things, who judgeth between all things, and whose vision embraceth all things. Thou art God, my Lord. Thou art aware of my position. Thou dost witness my inner and outer being. Grant thy forgiveness unto me, and unto the believers who responded to thy call. Be thou my sufficing helper against the mischief of whosoever may desire to inflict sorrow upon me or wish me ill. Verily, thou art the Lord of all created things. Thou dost suffice everyone, while no one can be self-sufficient without thee.
Thank you so much, and wishing every one of you a wonderful evening.
Allah.
Allah, everyone.
Allah.
Allow